Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hue. Again, I left it paused on the map. So we've got a fairly difficult move here we've got to do. Probably need to do that. And then we had a bit of a lag again. Seems like it does just kind of come up. I've also turned on the colorblind mode, which guess you're safe here, so you probably should just wait until this cycles downward. The colorblind mode puts everything that is colored with a symbol in the center of it, and I think that is such a good solution that it really would benefit me to stick with it and use it. We're gonna go purple or pink later. I may get this on the first try. No promises. But yeah. All you really have to do is get to this platform and then swap. And then go red here and then get to this platform. As long as it doesn't go any higher than that. Whoops. Can we recover from that? See, we can see in this case time doesn't actually slow down completely when you are swapping. So there, we made it. My only real concern would be if the laser was going to go higher, or if there was possibly a collectible over there on the left, like a secret wall I could jump through. Yeah, and I'm not willing to really test that right now. We'll wait until we get more desperate looking for collectibles. So most of these symbols, I guess, are probably alchemy symbols. Like the yellow symbol in particular looks like mercury, and I could see these being astrology or alchemy symbols. Maybe they're astrology symbols. Maybe that would make some sense. Gemini, Taurus. Yeah, these might be astrology symbols. Thus the moon. Although this doesn't really look like an astrology symbol to me. Okay. Probably want to move. See, you have colors overlapping, so when the colors overlap like that, the colorblind mode's not doing anything for that. Gonna assume I'm supposed to just push that out over there, and it may not really have mattered. We're in this underground location that seems to be an ancient civilization. And every single room now involves use of a key. I assume this is just teaching me that, at least at the moment, there's no way to block out both of those colors. Yeah. But it does make an interesting argument towards, at some point in the game, just revealing white light, just full spectrum light that includes all the colors, and then turns off all of the disappearable items. Although in a lot of cases, I would imagine you can't actually survive. You can't actually move through. No, this is what's gonna suck, is it's gonna be all about swapping at the exact right time. I'm just not getting lasered. This really would make a great argument for a checkpoint in the middle here. Even if I had to manually load and save, that would be helpful. So the first thing to do would be this. And then jump. No. We've got to jump on the upswing, don't we? So you have to go through all of this, then jump here. This is a lot of swapping. Very narrow areas, too. Here. Once our head is clear, swap here. Once our head is clear, swap here. Let's go and collect a flask. Now the story introduced this ancient society that knew of of colors but doesn't know of pain. I wonder if you could just jump here. Yeah, you can. Which, the idea of introducing pain into the narrative, I don't think really does much for you. Let's see, which color is not being involved at all? Red? Okay. If I landed here, then what do? You're just gonna die. So, they want me to be in dark blue. Which, yeah. If there was some way to align all of this, yeah, weirdly that worked. So why did that not work the first time? Having to wing it here. I'm noticing that because these laser projectors only show you the color on the laser projectors, they're actually pretty useless in colorblind mode for somebody who is actually colorblind. So yeah, I think they're nice little symbols that might imply some zodiac or alchemy element to this, or just give some more flavor visually to what you're seeing. But when the transmitters are off the screen, the actual laser beams aren't being labeled, and I think that highlights the limitations on this really being called a colorblind mode. It probably should be called something closer to like a color assistive mode. Alright, so what this looks like to me is you're supposed to just go down here. So what happens if we fall? You just fall to your death. Okay. Good to know. Feels like there should just be spikes on the ground if that's going to be the case. Seems unnecessarily cruel to have a pit that looks like a place you can fall. This game has been inconsistent, to say the least, around whether or not it is safe to fall down a pit or not. At the beginning of the game, it definitely taught the player that it should always be safe to fall down pits, and then late into the game they introduced the idea that no, some pitfalls are literally just going to kill you. So this is what I was thinking might, or this is close to what I was thinking might happen here, is that we would enter more Rube Goldberg-esque rooms, and we're not quite doing that. We're doing laser puzzles. So if I get the color right there, and then if I get the color right there, that lets us pick up the key. Then we'll just move the box around, get on the other side of it, and then we will use the box to block this laser. Okay. Next part is simply getting one block high to then save yourself. That jump. That's a pretty tight jump there. And if you make a mistake here, in any pick of what color, you have a decent chance of killing yourself. This might be a great example of a game that on some level may have not really needed a protagonist character. It is definitely the default assumption and thought when developing a game to have the player controlling a human, jumping around and platforming. But the actual innovation that feels like it's happening here, just a really short jump there, is around swapping the colors and making things disappear. Particularly now, late in the game. Okay. So if we do red, which seems like that has to be the case, then we've got to do blue, and we've got to do that wall jumping. I want to check every wall for any secrets, although I question whether the secrets really are just going to come from walls. yellow. Oh. Didn't even occur to me that the move might be to wrap around. Okay. So where are the switches here that are opening the platforms? That drops and that opens that. So the switches are the laser receptors. Okay. So then I'm gonna go red to get to this. Then I'm gonna go blue to get to this. Then I'm gonna go to red to get to this. Then I'm gonna do blue to get to this, swapping back and forth. Interesting. I wasn't really getting the visual connection there that was going to be a laser beam fired at me, although I should have gotten that idea. So we have to run fairly quickly, but we can't jump either. Okay. Again, this would be a nice place for a checkpoint. We're just gonna run and then do that. Music has changed a little bit. In this next one, we really do have to jump, and it's just going to be an orange, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then there's kind of nothing here. I guess you could have hidden down there or fallen down there. That may just be a safety spot. And here, make it that far. But there's a ladder up there. How would we... Why did I do that? I should have exited the room first. That makes so much more sense. This still comes off just really awkward, all of this. So the move is to go over and do all this. And we don't have a green, so we can't get all the flasks here, unfortunately. Then I guess that explains this platform being here. So we've seen all the flasks, we just can't collect them all. But the flasks also don't really explain themselves particularly well. They don't really seem like they integrate with the electricity theme of light bulbs that we've been seeing around this area, and it doesn't really seem like that integrates well to the concept of just visible light spectrum. Like, the receptors in the human eyeball are chemically based, certainly, but almost all other science, I would say, is more optically and electrically based, like cameras, sensors in a cell phone camera or just a regular camera. They aren't chemically based in the sense that you're breaking down proteins that have to regenerate, or you're stimulating proteins that are creating electrical signals. You're in camera sensors, you're just straight up stimulating electronics. Well, there might actually be less division between chemistry and other, but in the others, organic LEDs, I guess, technically do have some of that more flask-like feel to them, if there is anything that would have a flask-like feel to it. So this should give us our final color and yet another achievement. The background's now flashing all the different colors, which if it just constantly did that, that would be interesting. Green is represented and viewable by humans about twice as much as red or blue is, and that's why in some coloring palettes and systems they will actively use more green than they'll use slightly more numbers to label different colors of green than they will red or blue, if there's any extra split there. An 8-bit color, for instance, would be 8 bits, so 2 bits for reds, 2 bits for, or 3 bits for green, and then 2 bits for blue would be a way of having an 8-bit color, although that actually is only 7 bits, so you might have 4 bits for red and green, or you might use 1 bit as a way of labeling something opaque or solid. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I can get back to where I was. And I don't know if I would actually maintain having found the flask if I die. So we have to go back a little bit before going forward. What we don't see here, unfortunately, is any like big change. Green is just yet another color. I definitely would have wanted to experiment with having you start with red, green, blue as the colors, and then you can see there's 2 colors in between red and blue that are purples. I probably would have gotten that down to 1 purple, and then maybe have something between green and blue, light blue. But really what I would like is just pure white or pure dark as an option, so I could see getting rid of like orange even and light blue for a red, purple, green, white, and black layout. And then I would just kind of want something else to happen where you upgrade the red, green, and blue so that light green and like dark green all fall under that same category, and that the puzzles would actually get easier as you go along and unlock things. Going back potentially to these previous sections, nothing's really going to be that much easier. There might be a few puzzles where I can now be in green mode and I don't have to worry about swapping as much, but more often than not, that's going to be a problem. Now that we have unlocked this lower area, I can with the controller go to the left to reach this, but from this spot in the cave, there's no way with the controller to reach the second to latest area. And we have 3 out of 4 of the flasks, which the hope is that we would get all of them. Let's listen to this and then we'll end this episode.
The first time I wore the ring, I could see a coloured image of the sun. Aqua, purple, orange, pink, red, blue, yellow and green. Great fireworks played out across the backdrop to my reality. Was I dreaming? Was I alive? My senses, dulled from a lifetime of monotone, struggled with the revelation. Time eased. Colours danced in slow motion, like Pollock painting a ballet on the moon. I removed the ring and time slipped back to normal. Colour dissolved into grey. It was overwhelming. But what followed affected me the most. After seeing in colour for the first time, when everything returned to normal, I could remember in colour. I had never before had a coloured memory.
Yeah, there's a danger in using the phrase colored even in this instance. Somebody taking that out of context. So interesting, she names an actual artist, Pollock, in that. So this seems like this is supposed to be kind of the real world, but a real world where somehow the thoughts and memories of color have been erased at some point. They obviously did exist at some point, because she's making references to them, and then she's made some kind of ring that is probably what we are doing when we switch here. This is probably the ring. Notice in this area, if I choose a color, it doesn't affect it. It's just swapping back and forth between colors. Wasn't there... Yeah, there's a pretty famous book around this concept too. It might be The Giver. It might be a different one. It's one of those dystopian series where the people are being controlled, I think, by a drug or a pill they take that stops them from seeing in color. It's a metaphor, certainly, to dull the senses of the mass populace with some kind of drug. Many could argue things like TV and even video games might be the drug that dulls the senses of the populace away from paying any attention to whatever atrocities a dystopian country might be committing. It does seem like there's probably a few more puzzles in this area. I wouldn't be surprised if they're fairly difficult. But yeah. If everybody did see just in black and white, it wouldn't be as nice of a experience, certainly, but I imagine people would work on that. There is always that misnomer that dogs can only see in black and white, and it's not really true. They've actually proven that more recently. There are a lot of just old assumptions. Scientists, or frankly pseudoscientists, would make, and then things would get repeated over and over again until people just assumed they were true. But yeah, even if you were in a society that was where the people were being drugged to not see color, then that doesn't really change too much. You'd have to get into something like the movie They Live, where there would be secret messages for the secret police wandering around that community that could see in color because they weren't taking the drugs. There's a game that played with that concept called We Happy Few that came out, and unfortunately that game's actual gameplay mechanics were just not received anywhere as well as the trailers and the initial hype around it were. They just sold the game poorly on a trailer that made it look like it would be something like BioShock, and instead it was much more a survival resource roguelike game. In We Happy Few, the populace are taking pills that makes them happy and hallucinate and deluded, and once you stop taking the pills, you start to see reality for what it is in a less colorful aspect. In We Happy Few, though, the people on pills see more colors than actually are there in a bright, happy situation that isn't the reality. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Thanks.